Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Hokyoji Sunday Dharma Talk, which will be given by Chimyo Atkinson today. And Chimyo was ordained by Teijo in 2007, and Teijo is my Dharma sister, and she did the Dharma Transmission ceremony in 2015. She trained at Great Tree and also at several places in Japan in 2010, 2011, and also at Simone Nisodo in Nagoya. And also she did a training period in 2014 at Ryumonji. She served as head of practice at Great Tree, and she's also volunteered with the sangha at Avery-Mitchell Correctional Institute until 2020. So I'm very happy to welcome Chimyo today to give our Dharma talk. Thank you so much, Chimyo.
Thank you. Thank you. And good morning. Can you hear me? No. Of course not. Okay. Let's see. Well, we continue with the talking about 8 realizations of great beings. Our 8 realizations. And I think I'll just read the first one. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, or at least an aspect of the first realization. And for those of you who don't know, this is the Thich Nhat Hanh translation, Sutra on the 8 Realizations of the Great Beings. The first realization is the awareness that the world is impermanent. All political regimes are subject to fall. All things composed of the 4 elements are empty and contain the seeds of suffering. Human beings are composed of 5 skandhas, aggregates, and are without a separate self. They are always in the process of change, constantly being born and constantly dying. They are empty of self, without sovereignty. The mind is the source of all confusion, and the body is the forest of all impure actions. If we meditate on these facts, we can gradually be released from samsara, the round of birth and death. It seems like I've been talking about emptiness for a long time. Emptiness and impermanence for me are, whatever the words mean to everyone else or in whatever canon, are interchangeable. They're the same thing. I don't know how they can be different. I keep running up against this impermanence that makes it hard for me to really keep or really realize these 8 realizations that have been left to us. Someone pointed out yesterday there's a sutra on the 8 awarenesses, which is part of the last sutra or the last teaching of the Buddha, which kind of parallel these. A lot of it is very much the same as these realizations. The only difference is that the 8 awarenesses from the Buddha was directed at his monks. So there's parts of it that are very specific to monastic life and to monastic behavior. But this is very general. So this is directed at the world in general. And the first thing that's pointed out, the first thing that we're meant to realize is impermanence. And that should be easy, because impermanence is, the evidence of it is all around us, every minute. Every time I open my eyes, the room changes. It's just, why can't I accept impermanence? People come and go. Today, people are going to leave, and some people are going to come. It's the end of the next week. I'm going to be somewhere else. I know this. Impermanence. Someone was saying the other day about how his grandmother often said, as she got older, you know, I believe he said she's like 100 years old, that everyone she knew was dead. What came up for me when he said that was, my mother didn't die recently. It's been almost 5 years now. But it was sudden and quick and unexpected. And suddenly this being who had been in my life, all my life, I'd never known the world without her, was gone. Impermanence. You have certain things, you know, I said also, I've got a whole bunch of notes over here, and picking and choosing, because Doka just told me, make it 30 minutes, so I'm picking and choosing. I was also thinking about the prince in the palace, and how much like Siddhartha in that palace I really am. You know, sitting behind high walls, pretending that those walls are impermeable. You know, pretending that those walls will never crumble. Pretending that it's holding me and all the things that I hold dear, that I value. All the things that make me rich, that make me powerful, that make me a prince, is a pretend permanence. You know, even if I'm the richest guy in the land, you know, all I have to do is one morning open my silo and find that the rats have eaten that pile of grain down to the ground. All I have to do is, you know, at some point, the jewels and the money that I have stashed away might not be valued as much as they were on one day as they are the next, you know. And I'm not talking playing the stock market. Just ask anybody 20s, 30s Germany who was running around pushing a wheelbarrow full of money trying to find somebody that would sell them a loaf of bread. You know, it can happen that quick. The evidence is all around. And yet, I think I'm safe in my castle of me and what I value and what makes me special. even in the, speaking of, things that, you thought would be here forever, I remember when David Bowie died. And if you want to really see change, I think he really grasped it. I'm not a big Bowie fan, but that persona was around for my whole life. From, Major Tom to Ziggy Stardust to Ashes to Ashes, changes, and, Let's Dance, all the way through to Black Star. The fact that I'm not a Bowie fan and I know all of that, have heard all of that, and it was part of my life, so that when he died, I was talking to a friend who is a very big Bowie fan, and I thought, oh, this is just another one of his transitions. Another new way to be David Bowie, or not be David Bowie. What a lesson he might be trying to leave us. But even that, like I said, the evidence is all around me. And I can talk about it, intellectualize it, make little similes, all that. But I can't say that I've truly grasped it, which makes it hard for me to really live these realizations the way I think is possible and necessary for me to do the bodhisattva life I've vowed to do. And I think the real part of that that's hard to grasp is the part that is also obvious, that I am. Impermanence is my nature as well as the nature of all. Because I want to say me and my. Impermanence means that I am also, as it says, the nature of human beings is constantly changing. Moment to moment, I am dying. Moment to moment, I'm arising and falling, like everything else. But my ego and this body that is so deceptive, I think the deception or the delusion begins as soon as we leave the womb. It's a shame that maybe there's somebody out there who remembers that we can't remember exactly what it was like to be a part of another body, to be, what it was like to go from nothing, a cell, to a fetus, to a human being, lodged, sharing blood and air and food and all of that with another being so intimately. If I could remember that, maybe I'd have a little more understanding. But when we emerge in birth, immediately the skandhas take hold of 5 aggregates of form, feeling, perception, etc. that we just, no, we didn't do it this morning, but we did yesterday, that we say so often in the Heart Sutra, that it's pointing, all of this is pointing to that, you say it every day, and yet it's so hard to grasp. But all of those kick in, and I become I. And I want to be here and special and safe and forever in some way. There's a moving on. There's a simile or a story of the monk Nagasena and King Milinda, of the chariot, that is meant to illustrate the 5 skandhas and what the nature of this being is. And it's basically what Nagasena said was, think of a chariot, pull it apart, take the wheels off, break down the wood, take the bolts out. When does it stop being a chariot? When does it begin being a chariot? Dogen's example. What is ash? What is ash? What is a piece of wood if you burn it and it turns to ash? When is it wood? When is it ash? It all transfers. It all transforms to something else. So what about this body? What about this mind and these forms, feelings, perceptions? All in aggregate that makes up whatever I is in this moment. Just a heap of stuff that constantly moves and changes, rises and falls like flowers. What is unacceptable about that? What is not obviously true about that? Even sitting here trying to do this talk, I don't know what's going to happen when I speak these words. These words are gone as soon as I breathe them. And even if you are recording them, at some point it's going to be gone. Somebody's going to erase it. So what does that mean? Why, is it, when I do these talks, I try to remind myself of that fact. This is who this is expressing this right now. Tomorrow I might find out I'm wrong. But sitting here, I don't want wrong tomorrow to exist. I want this to be permanently right. At least in my mind. It doesn't have to be right in anybody else's mind, but in my mind, But what difference does it make? This moment is now. This moment is here. This is what I understand right now. And hopefully it will lead me to some other understanding. And maybe in the process help somebody else. But the nature of impermanence is so slippery for me. It makes the whole thing scary. But it's essential for me to understand, because without my understanding of that, then I cannot fully experience generosity or compassion, non-fear, the Dharma in total, if I don't grasp that. It starts with that, and I think that's why this sutra starts that way. When I was doing my little research, I don't want to go on too long, but I think I'll find one of these. It's really funny when talk about impermanence. Whenever I come to impermanence has been with me a long time, and I don't know why. My first beginning to really understand that this is what, maybe this is my lifelong study, this little piece of it, was when I did my Hosen Shiki, my Shuso ceremony. My case was Bodhidharma's emptiness. Empty, nothing holy. Who is this who stands before me? Don't know. Yeah. And it's come up again and again. And it's so hard for me to talk about. But it also is so intriguing. And something in me really wants to know this, really wants to feel this, really wants to realize this. And maybe this is why when I picked up this little pamphlet, I kept reading, even though some of it was annoying and bothersome, And it's teaching me, that the thing that, what does he say exactly? The mind is the source of all confusion, and the body is the forest of all impure actions. All my confusion comes from seeing this body as this separate thing from the rest of the world, this little piece of where am I if I'm not part of this, and fully and connected to this world? How can I be so separate in my imagination, because it is my imagination, that I'm separate. That I'm this special thing set over here that's separate from that flower. That's separate from any person in this room, separate from the wall, when that is not true. We don't exist without each other. Another basic of the Buddha's teaching that we forget. This impermanence makes us, there's another simile, sorry, there's all this poetry that comes up when I pulled up all the stuff for emptiness this time. This time it was all about poems and little stories. Sometimes I pull it up and it's all about Dogen, and it's the stuff that comes up or the stuff that catches my eye is more that Dogen weaving thing, that he does that is halfway understood. You can only half understood because the way he puts it. But this time poetry came up. In little stories. Well, I don't want to go on because I have I got it hot. Am I going too long? Am I right? Because okay, 2 more minutes. In 2 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna pick something for 2 minutes. There was a little story that I found called the Vajra Sutra, and I wanted to read it because it's about a woman, which, all these stories it's always about kings and Dogen and blah, blah, blah. But let's go back further, and there are more women than you expect in the sutras that we never talk about. This is the Vajra Sutra, and this is about a bhikkhuni, a female nun, who, in the course of her day, encounters Mara, who is formed in our culture, I guess, as the devil, or the tempter, or the trickster. But sometimes when I read these, I'm like, he's probably our very best friend. And she sits down after she's had her lunch, and Mara comes up, and of course he wants to play games, and he asks her, by whom, and he's referring to her, by whom was this being created? Where is this being's maker? Where has this being originated? Where does the being cease? And Vajra, sitting, having had her lunch, bothered by these, questions, says, after a little deliberation, says, what? Do you assume a living being, Mara? Do you take a position? This is purely a pile of fabrications. There's no being that can be pinned down. Just as when an assemblage of parts, with an assemblage of parts, there is the word chariot. Even so, when aggregates are present, the convention of being a living being. There is the convention of being a living being. Can't read my own writing, excuse me. And then she says, in conclusion, nothing but stress comes to be. Nothing ceases but stress. Nothing but stress comes to be from these silly questions about what is this and who am I and I. Nothing comes but stress. That's the confusion that comes from not just being in this moment, understanding that it's passing, understanding that I'm passing, all this trying to do something and be permanent and be here and have people remember me and, have all the things I want and all the things I like. To withhold from other people care and comfort because it's mine. And I must have it because why? One of the things that I've learned in this life is being a monk, and I'm not in monastic life right now. I mean, my life changed, and so I'm not in monastic life, but some of it is pretty much the same as it always has been for the last 15 years since I took ordination, was that the things that I've always worried about not having always show up, whether not in the way that I want it to, and sometimes they're not even the things that I think I need. But the requisites are always there. Whereas I grew up, you better have this kind of job, and you better do this kind of thing, and you better have this much money, and blah, blah, blah. That's not true. It's not true in all situations. And it's not true for all of our lives. If you made it to 60, almost 60 like me, you figure that out. There will be a way. There is enough in the world for me to survive and thrive. Not get rich, not leave a legacy, maybe, not leave an inheritance, but there's enough. And it changes all the time. What I need and what will satisfy those needs changes all the time. And I missed my 2 minutes, but whatever. I'm going to end on that very awkward situation. See, there it is again, because I'm not even flexible enough to rearrange my own stuff sometimes. But here we are, and that's what happened. Thank you for listening.
Well, Chim, you did a remarkable job, given you had a 2-minute warning to only speak for 30 minutes. But the only reason I asked that is because I felt last time we got cut short on people wanting to engage with you on some dialogue. I just felt that was out there.
Oh, no.
So I just wanted to create an opportunity this time for us to engage with you. And as we all know, we've been in Chosan for these past 2 weeks, but that's a different arrangement. We're kind of all just talking with each other, but this arrangement is for us to just talk with you directly, and us in the room and also those online. So I'd really like to invite all of us to ask Chimyo what just dialogue with you and find out about things. And look at that. That's a record number.
What's going on?
We've never had more people than that on a Dharma talk here. So there you go, Chimyo. You got an audience. Okay.
Okay, just make me feel really self-conscious and
okay.
I don't know what that means.
All right, take it away. And someone will need. I'll moderate if I see. Let's leave it on gallery view or whatever, so we can see when someone has a question. Either, and I can't see you folks back there, but anyway, let's just have a dialogue with Chimyo.
Sure.
Who wants to start? Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Chimyo, I would like to hear you talk more about the relationship between understanding impermanence in depth and generosity and compassion. Mm-hmm. That really struck me, and I didn't understand. I know I'm supposed to understand it, but I just wonder if you could say a few more words about that.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you how I'm understanding it right now. Compassion, if I think about the way I think about it, because my lack of understanding of impermanence makes me feel that I must have some future, that there is some something that of me that is not shared, that is not connected to the rest of the world, that limits my compassion, because I don't see you as me. I don't see that cow over there as me or as part of my world. It's just something for me to use, rather than something that's sharing this existence with me. And so compassion for all things, mountains and rivers, living things that we say are living and things that we say are, well, all things are living, says Do again. Then that makes me less generous, less able to experience sympathetic joy in the understanding that other people's good fortune or other people's happiness is my happiness, and also that other people's suffering, even if I and I may be the cause of that suffering, is my suffering. It doesn't make it, this separateness, this feeling of permanent. Something came up about, there's another sort of poetic way of expressing this that, someone used to use it a lot. I can't remember whose it is, of the ocean, that we are waves in the ocean. We're all ocean. It's just that this Chimyo that's up for, however many years I get to have, is a part of that ocean. I'm just a wave of movement in it. Impermanent, but still part of that ocean. I've always been, a part of this ocean, even before I was born. I was here in some form. And there's another wave coming that will include me. But it won't be me. And in that is this sharing that existence with all other beings in the universe. And it sounds a little corny. And that the way corniness, that description of corny, comes from a resistance. And it may be, it's not the coolest way to express things, but that's what we are. And understanding impermanence, understanding that I'm not here forever, that this moment is that moment for me to be that bodhisattva, to be that compassionate being, and share all that is me. That's what we're saying yes to. That's what Brother Fat was saying yes to, in my mind, when he was talking, and he set up, and he described his dream where Tai touched him and asked him, and he said yes. That's yes. It's hard to understand. It's hard to describe and say. It's hard to feel that all the time. And that's what practice is allowing myself to be that deep ocean, that little wave that just, wrinkles for a minute and disappears. Not trying to do the impossible and grasp all the rest of the water, all the sea to me, you know. World domination, yeah. Trying to grab all that water and keep it in your arms. But I'm doing my world domination thing all the time. So, but I don't know that describes anything or helps with that, because I don't know. And it kind of aches there, you know. Thank you for the question.
Well,
Yes.
nobody else had a better question. This isn't a very good question, but you all have studied a lot and read a lot of things, and it starts out, there is impermanence. But when my mother died, my little 2-year-old self said, why? Why is there impermanence?
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what Mara is doing. Yeah. Why? Where? What? A part of it is, that doesn't matter. This is the nature of things. This is what Siddhartha discovered when he walked out of the palace and saw the sick and the dying, apparently, theoretically for the first time. This is what we see all around us. That's what we're discovering all the time. Does it matter why? If this is the nature of things, if this is the nature of being, what's the question? In other words, don't worry about it. Yes.
Chimyo, this is Alan Williams. I'm in St. Paul. It just strikes me with regard to this last question that, without impermanence, I'm thinking about, I have a new great niece who's about 15 months old. Without impermanence, she wouldn't learn another new word. She wouldn't be different tomorrow than she is today. She wouldn't be growing up. And I wouldn't be growing old, of course. But without impermanence, without constant change, without change, there wouldn't be anything. Everything, it would just be static, whatever it is. I don't think there really could be an it. Anyway, that just struck me.
Yeah. Change, impermanence is also opportunity. Opportunity for what? Who knows? There's all this potential that's around us for things that we can't even imagine are going to be, in the next moment or in some distant moment, So you're right. This is how, this is living, birth and death, and it's samsara, but it is also nirvana. How do we move to nirvana? I mean, if there's a place to move to, I mean, nirvana is right there, whatever. How do we, yeah. You're right.
I saw Henry's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Henry?
Oh,
Henry, did you?
yeah. I look at impermanence as the heartbeat of life.
Mm.
And it's, when I'm miserable, I'm so grateful for impermanence.
Mm.
When everything goes well, I don't think of impermanence.
Mm.
And just like when things are going well, I don't analyze them. When things don't go well, I am just with them and I don't analyze them either.
Good. Mm.
So impermanence is the great gift.
Mm.
And some of the questions we ask about, meaning and all this, it's like old bubble gum that we chew too long on. We should spit it out.
We're going to create a book someday, The Sayings of Henry.
I get you. Mm.
Can't you just see the perfection of it all? I work so hard. Can you just inhale and exhale and just see the beauty of it all?
Mm.
And quit working so hard.
Mm.
Life is like a slide, like going down a slide instead of climbing a rocky hill.
Is somebody writing this down? Thank you, Henry.
Are we? Kika? Did you have a Kika? Did you have a question?
Sure. I always have a question, whether I raise my hand or not. But you did see a very subtle thing. Thank you. Thank you, Chimyo. It's always so great to hear you speak. And so I've been looking at the stars because they're so beautiful out here, and there's so many of them. And so some people think, well, it's not Nirvana here, so we'll just go to another planet. And apparently there are some astronomers who are kind of like the astronomers for social responsibility, and their whole point is, if there is another planet with that's habitable, it's so far away we can't get there, so there is no planet B.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, as we consider impermanence, how do we go from that and a deep understanding without chewing the bubble gum, which I'm constantly chewing, thank you very much. Especially 2 weeks into this, it's like all I'm doing. How do we go from impermanence to not just helping others, but making the world a better place? How do we get out of our individualist mindset of in the cushion, improving myself, checking every little aspect of my ego to make sure it's like not there? How do I go? It's like a little bit nauseating to myself. Like all I do is look at myself, and how like so how are we doing? I really am like aching and wondering for a social consciousness in all of this. Can you speak to that, please?
Well, social consciousness is consciousness, period. That's what we're missing, you know. If this is, for me, this practice has been a way of not just analyzing and checking myself, you know, all the time, but trying my best to, as you say, get out of the way and just respond in the way to the world in a way that is helpful and caring. There was something. What did you say, Dokai, when you were talking about the requisitions? And you said that's socialism, whatever. It's not socialism.
No.
It's being a freaking human being and making
stand
sure
corrected.
that the rest of the world is cared for, because I'm the rest of the world. You know, that's what I mean by, that's what I was trying to express by that clumsy metaphor of the ocean. You know, my patch of ocean, you know, can't be clean if I'm, you know, everybody else's is dirty. You know, if everybody else's is polluted. That's part of my ocean. You know, I'm part of that ocean that is, it's gonna be seeping into me no matter, you know, how I delude myself that it's not. You know, if the Bodhisattva way is that I will not be free until everybody is free. I will not be enlightened until everybody is enlightened, because enlightenment is not just for one individual or one species or one this or one that. You know, how to express this. There was a song a couple of years ago, "All We Is We." You know, remember that soca? Maybe nobody knows soca. I don't know. But there's a soca song, and the guy says, "All we is we." You know, there's no you and me. All we is we. We're here, you know, together in this. And so my effort to make things better for me is wasted if it's just me, right? It doesn't make my world I don't know how to express this because I'm not very good at this word thing. So I'm going to hop all over the place trying to find it, but I don't know if I can. The thing is, this practice is meant to show us how to care for all beings. Say it every day. Free all beings. So how do we do that? But just to care and to show compassion. The abodes, you know, it's repeated again and again. The precepts, the abodes, it's repeated again and again. In every part of the sutras and the practice, it's repeated. You know, how many sledgehammers do we need? You know, so there's not this. You know, the thing with the way we categorize things, the way we compartmentalize things as social justice. Social justice is pure practice. You know, it's not a separate thing that practice helps you do. That is it. You know, if you truly believe in the freeing and saving of all beings, however you want to put it. They're just our words to try to make things easier to, you know, put aside when we can't do it, or when we don't feel like doing it, or when it's uncomfortable. You know, so we make it something, a thing. Try not to make it something, a thing. It's just your life. It's just our lives together. You know, if someone is hurting in the street, is it your practice to bend down and do your best with whatever you have for that person, even if it's just making a phone call? Or is it your practice to step over them and keep walking? That's, it's, you know, what? You know, I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't answer questions. I'm sorry. I can't truly give you words for that. I don't know. I can't find them right now. But thank you for asking.
Well, I think we've come to the end of our time here, and thank you so much, Chimyo. I also want to extend my appreciation to all of those who are joining us by Zoom. And just to let you know that next week, Chimyo will be giving the Dharma talk again. So I invite you all to come back and participate again. Hokyoji will be starting a session on Monday evening, and we'll be ending with the Dharma talk next Sunday morning. So we would like to see you all again next Sunday. So thank you very much for attending, and thank you so much, Chimyo, for your talk today.
Thank you for listening.
We'll close.